I can't stop smiling. This spaceship is just so cool.
Today, on Starfield Essentials, your weekly Starfield news report. In our first segment, Starfield Lives, the Pumpkin Protocol. Kinggath needs Spanish translator for work-in-progress creation. More Halo content. Pathfinder MEA Redux. In our second segment, a real armillary. Understanding POI Cooldown. Try Jefe Combat AI. Polycounts of BGS heads from Morrowind to Starfield. And DLSS frame generation finally working on Linux. My name is Richard. Let's get started. Starfield Lives. This past week, Bethesda broke its silence on the status of Starfield. In a 76-word statement, Bethesda wrote, quote, "We know you're eager for an update, and we truly appreciate your passion for Starfield. The team has been hard at work, and while we're not ready to share specific details just yet, we have a lot of exciting things planned for the game this year that we can't wait to talk about when the time is right. We're always listening and taking your feedback to heart. Thanks for being part of this journey with us." End quote. This is the first news we have had on the game since the last update, which happened with the release of bug fixes for Shattered Space, a new rover, and a Creation Kit update. We did get an update to the Creation Kit on January 28th, but that was a silent release with no fanfare. Why is Bethesda being so quiet? They have been very busy, as shown by these basically daily updates to SteamDB. However, since the beginning of January, all of these updates have essentially been private. What incentive does Bethesda have to provide regular updates? Let's look at what happened with the Shattered Space DLC, which was available as a pre-order with the base game in 2023. Some people didn't like the base game because they said it was all spread out, procedurally generated content, and they wanted a focused location with handcrafted content. Let's not forget that the base game has a ton of handcrafted content. And thank you to anara.cz for being the source of these screen captures. It's a wonderful resource if you're trying to learn more about what's in Starfield. So for Shattered Space, BGS listened to player feedback and incorporated it into the DLC. The developers provided a focused location with handcrafted content, and the complainers moved the goalposts. In my opinion, a chunk of hate for Shattered Space was just premium edition buyers who didn't get what they expected. Skyrim in space, plus No Man's Sky, plus Star Citizen, plus Cyberpunk, plus whatever. And they were exercising the last gasps of their frustration. I do understand complaints about requiring the player to join House Va'ruun to unlock the main story in the DLC. But please, you can be a poser the whole time and walk away from House Va'ruun at the end. I personally had a bigger concern with how restarting the Crusade should affect the Starfield universe, and I hope BGS doesn't just drop that. The bottom line for me is that Bethesda is making the right move here to stay quiet until they are ready to release their next content. The more they say about future releases, the greater the risk of unrealistic expectations in the minds of players and non-players. This is not what I had called for a year or so ago when I wished to hear more from Bethesda on their plans. After seeing the reaction from Bethesda anti-fandom to Shattered Space, I completely endorse the current run silent approach. So what will we get? Beyond a probably Starborn-themed DLC in the fall, no one knows for sure. There are rumors of a PlayStation port of Starfield, and I believe that will happen. I predicted that the point at which Starfield drops off the True Achievement Xbox Top 40 chart is a leading indicator of this development. Starfield has been missing from the top 40 since December 1st, so I encourage Microsoft, Xbox, and Bethesda to grow the Starfield player count and their return on investment by making the game available beyond the Xbox and PC. I believe Starfield will get an online edition and a mobile game, similar to Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online. Perhaps we will eventually see a TV show, as happened with Fallout. Next, the Pumpkin Protocol. There's been the usual amount of complaining about paid mods over the last week, so I wanted to highlight a free mod that I really enjoyed. The mod is called the Pumpkin Protocol by NatCatCute. The Pumpkin Protocol is available only on Nexus Mods, but I have asked if it will be posted to Creations as well. This is a totally free quest that takes place in New Atlantis. It has some clever level design and challenges. I admit I had to consult a playthrough by Deshawn when I got stuck. As of the time of writing this script, There are over 3,200 creations, yes, a minority of which are paid, and over 10,160 Nexus mods, all of which are free. If you don't think there are good free mods for Starfield, you just aren't looking. And I have featured many excellent paid creations here. If you need ideas, just look back through previous videos. I appreciate all modders. Thank you for your work. You know who else I appreciate? My subscribers and channel members. There's a better than 50% chance that you, yes you dear viewer, are not yet subscribed. Please consider subscribing to show YouTube that you enjoy positive and honest Starfield content. I have special thanks for my 22 channel members. I've had to break out 2 columns to show all of your names. If you'd like to know more about membership, click the join button on the channel. There is no obligation. And if you join, you get access to our new private Discord set up by one of our members, the Arcane Gearsmith. Thank you for that. Anything you and YouTube gives me goes back to this channel, whether it's to buy hard drives for capturing footage or acquiring creations to review. Thanks to your support, I made a $100 donation to the Make-A-Wish Foundation in the name of this channel as part of a recent workshop featuring Starfield modders. Thank you, everyone. Next, Kinggath needs Spanish translator for work-in-progress creation. Returning to how awesome the Starfield modding scene is, Kinggath Studios, who brought us the Doom creation last year, is looking for a Spanish translator for future Starfield content. As you can see on their Help Wanted page, we are looking for someone bilingual in Spanish and English to help us translate projects in an official capacity. The ideal candidate will be fluent in both languages and demonstrate an understanding of things that don't translate literally, such as comedy and metaphor. The ideal candidate would have a love for Bethesda games and experience playing them in Spanish to understand translation of game-specific terms, especially Starfield and Elder Scrolls. Bonus points for familiarity with the translation systems used by the creation engine. This sounds like a position for multiple projects. If you're interested and available, please check it out. Next, more Halo content. Several of you have enjoyed the Halo modding content in previous videos. This past week, I tried out a few new mods to share them with you. The first is another version of the Halo Reach Pelican by Michael Oliver. The Halo Reach Pelican is only available on Nexus Mods. The requirements for this mod include the Starfield script extender, which would preclude it from being on the Xbox. I don't think that SFSE is really that necessary. Someone did ask the modder to bring it to Creations, but it looks like it will have to be done by someone else. In my testing, you only need the ship vendor framework, which is on Creations. Without a couple other prerequisites, you will not be able to open the landing bay. That was not a deal breaker for me. I just fast traveled inside the ship. If you would like a vanilla Pelican build, see Iconic Ships by Ship Technician on Creations. I featured this creation in a previous video. I also tried a new Halo Shotgun by Commando 414. Halo Shotgun Standalone is available on Nexus Mods. I've asked the modder if they plan to bring it to the Creations system. Great job, Halo modders. Next, Pathfinder MEA Redux. Speaking of mod content from other franchises, I mentioned recently how I was using some Mass Effect armor in my current game. One of you kindly suggested that I try the Pathfinder MEA Redux mod by Shadedness. Pathfinder MEA Redux is on Creations and Nexus Mods. I think this is some nice looking armor. I like that you can see the player's face in the helmet. I used my usual console commands to spawn the armor and give it some legendary effects. For the suit, I always add the following. Replace the first value with the one matching your equipment. I add EM shielding, optimized servos, heavy shielding, gravitic composites, and the following legendaries: O2 filter, weapon holsters, and assisted carry. For the helmet, I always add these: ballistic shielding, sensor array, heavy shielding, and gravitic composites. And these legendary effects: Chameleon, Fastened, and Peacemaker. There is no boost pack in this set, but if there were, I would add these modifications: Hazard Protection, Regeneration, Balanced Pack, and these legendaries: Combat Veteran, Auto Medic, and Sentinel. Now, I typically add these using the console commands that you've seen, but there are many ways to do this. You can add it using crafting, you can use the legendary module recycler, and I have videos on how to do that if you are interested. Next, a real armillary. Did you know that the armillary in Starfield is a real device? I didn't, and I have a degree in history. I learned that an armillary was a real historical device after reading this post by Redditor Dane Alaska Cruz. According to Google's Arts and Culture page, begun on March 4, 1588 and completed on May 6, 1593, this large armillary sphere was built under the supervision of Antonio Santucci at the request of Ferdinand I de' Medici. The sphere represents the universal machine of the world according to the concepts developed by Aristotle and perfected, quotes, by Ptolemy. The terrestrial globe is placed at the center. Surprisingly, it even displays territories that were still relatively little known at the time. Restored in the 19th century by Ferdinando Meucci, the device is now incomplete and some of its parts are mismatched. I applaud Bethesda for its historical acumen. This reminds me of classic Doctor Who, a show that was originally invented to teach history to children. Well done. Next, understanding POI Cooldown. I run Starfield with the excellent POI Cooldown mod by Paul Brock. POI Cooldown is available on Creations and Nexus Mods. In a recent comment, Paul gave me some advice on how it works. For example, in the console, I can use help PCM_cooldown to see all the cooldowns controlled by POI Cooldown. For example, I can look at the PCM cooldown DR029 value, which controls the cooldown for the abandoned Deimos scrapyard, and I see the value is 101.62. The key to the cooldown is comparing this value with the game days past variable. Here I check the game days past value and see that it is 67.01. Because 101.62 is greater than 67.01, the cooldown is active for the abandoned Deimos scrapyard. Next, let's look at the value for the deserted UC listening post. I see it as DR007 with a cooldown value of 72.24. Because 72.24 is greater than 67.01, the cooldown is still in effect, but not for much longer. Now let's check a PCM cooldown value that is less than my game days past. PCM cooldown DR012 is 56.39, which is less than 67.01. DR012 appears to be the science facility and abandoned robotics facility, so I should see these at the moment. In my game, my current cooldown setting uses the 50-day looter's value. Paul also told me that changing the cooldown setting does not reset existing cooldowns. You can manually reset a cooldown to 0 to see a POI again, or to never see it again, set the cooldown to 9999. Next, try El Jefe Combat AI. Personally, I don't have a problem with the combat behavior of NPCs in Starfield. Does it seem weird when they charge out of Dark Universe takeover forts? Sure, but it's a video game. However, I know that AI combat behavior is a concern for some of you. That's why I tried El Jefe Combat AI by El Jefe 303030. El Jefe Combat AI is available on Creations and Nexus Mods. I haven't played a ton this week with this mod enabled, but I did not notice any startling differences. I do plan to keep playing with it and see how I like it. Please let me know in a comment if you're using this mod or any other Combat AI mod. Next, Polycounts of BGS heads from Morrowind to Starfield. YouTuber FrujiNasin9076 pointed me toward a video that commented on the evolution of Bethesda's ability to render player and NPC faces. I tracked down what I believe is the original source of this content. It's from a Reddit post by Redditor Starfield November, great name, titled Polycounts of BGS heads from Morrowind to Starfield. This is pretty amazing in my opinion. It shows you how Bethesda has improved their graphics with each game. Thank you, FrujiNasin9076, for the tip. And finally, DLSS frame generation finally working in Linux. I mostly play Starfield on Windows 11, but I also dual boot to use Linux Mint 22.1. I've been trying to get DLSS frame generation on my 4070 Ti Super working in Starfield for months on Linux. I used the Ubuntu PPA with the 570 drivers. I manually updated to the latest DLLs, had preset K working, and so on. DLSS frame generation works fine in Cyberpunk 2077, and just recently I used it with the Monster Hunter Wilds and Dune Awakening benchmarks. I also watched a Linux gaming video where a guy with a 4090 was running Starfield with frame generation enabled. After reading a thread on Reddit, I wondered if my integrated GPU might be the problem. I have an AMD 7600X with an iGPU. I tried disabling the iGPU in my Asus X670E Plus Wi-Fi BIOS. After booting, I saw this. And when I loaded Starfield, I had the option to enable frame generation with DLSS. Now my Linux play is as smooth as my Windows dual boot. My Steam startup command is simply mangohud equals 1 space %command %. In a casual test, it seems that I average around 100 FPS in Aquila City on Windows, but between 60 and 70 FPS in Aquila City on Linux. This is with the same character and mod loadout. I will still need to do some more tests, but it seems the consensus opinion is that NVIDIA drivers on Linux still need work to catch up with their Windows counterparts. What have you been doing in Starfield? Your insights make this channel a place for positive and honest discussion of the game. In addition to videos, I also post to the community tab for this channel on a daily basis. If you subscribe, you will see these posts in your YouTube feed. Also check out our membership options. If you made it to this part of the video, please leave a comment with the phrase, Viva Starfield! Also, remember to ring the bell icon and select all notifications. Check out my other videos if you want to learn how to keep your ship by building it in the creation kit, or my thoughts on the game's 1-year anniversary. My name is Richard. I will see you in the Starfield.